Reinhardt X tweeted me. He said, Thom Hartmann, my roommate is for Donald Trump. He doesn't care what Donald Trump does, just that he will pay less taxes. He makes $40,000 to $50,000 a year. Can you explain taxes? Thank you for feeling -- Reinhardt X. Thank you for setting that up for me. Here's the deal. If you're a salaried employee, or for that matter, an hourly employee, if you make a paycheck, the way that taxes impact you is a very, very, very different thing than if you own a business, or you live on investments, or you're a trust fund baby, or you're getting a paycheck, but it's obscenely high. You know, you run a bank and you make $30 million a year. So here's the difference. If you're drawing a paycheck, you presumably have an employer. And your employer knows what the market is for labor. And everybody understands that that market is an after-tax market, even though we talk in before-tax dollars. You say, you know, well, how much do you make? Well, I make $50,000 a year. Well, what does that mean? Well, it means that, you know, after I pay all my taxes, I take home $41,000. So I'm able to live on $41,000 as an employee, for example. This is a hypothetical. And so my employer, if let's say, you know, Donald Trump becomes president and he cuts my taxes. Now, Trump's plan is only to cut taxes on the really, really rich. I mean, there would be a small trickle down, just like there was with Reagan, to average people. You know, you might save a couple $100 a year in taxes, but nothing of consequence. But let's say that he actually did. Let's say he cut my taxes by $1,000. Let's say he cut my taxes by $5,000. So now in my $50,000 a year salary, I'm taking home $46,000 instead of $41,000. Sounds good, right? Except that my employer knows that I can live on $41,000, and I'm perfectly willing to do that job for $41,000 take home. And now, because of the government gave me a tax cut, I'm taking home $46,000. So what does my employer do? My employer comes along and says, you know, we're going to cut your wages. Or we're going to lay you off and hire someone for $46,000 instead of $50,000 because, you know, hey, it's the same take-home pay. And that's actually what happened. Reagan actually did, in two of his tax cuts, he actually did cut the taxes on working people. Not hugely, but in a way that was noticeable. It was a few $100s a month. And in some cases, a few $1,000s a month if you were making less than, say, $80,000 a year. And what happened? Wages went down. Look it up. Wages went down in the 80s. And they continue to go down in the 90s. And they've been flat ever since, because of what I just described to you. So for wage earners, taxes don't matter. If the tax rate was raised, let's say that you're making $50,000 a year and you're taking home $41,000, you're paying $9,000 a year in taxes, and that got doubled. Now you're paying $18,000 a year in taxes. So instead of taking home $41,000 a year, you're now taking home $32,000 a year, $33,000, whatever it is. I can't do math that fast. $42,000 a year. Excuse me, $32,000 a year. So, you know, a lot of people can't live on $32,000 a year, so they'd quit their job, or they would demand higher wages. So what happens when taxes go up? Wages go up. That's why the minimum wage in Denmark is $19 an hour, because the average tax rate is around 40%. So at the end of the day, everybody's basically taking home whatever they're taking home. Now, the exception to this, and this is how, you know, Reinhardt X, your friend, is a total sucker. He has bought into this as if he was Mitt Romney or Charles Koch. Right? If you have control over your income, then getting a tax cut means you're going to make more money. If you're self-employed, if you're living off investments, if you've got a trust fund, something like that, if your taxes go down, you can take home more money. But that's like 3% of the population or something. I mean, it's probably not even 1% of the population. Well, it's probably closer to 3 or 4% of the population. But it's not the average working person. It's not the average person who is going to vote for somebody that they think is going to cut their taxes. And the average person doesn't understand this. This is never discussed in the media. It's like, oh, you're going to get a tax cut. Oh, wonderful. I'm going to make more money. No, your employer over time is going to cut your wages or replace you with someone who will work for what you were working for before in terms of take-home dollars. Anyhow, we'll be back with your calls. It's 19 minutes past.